everyone, Kareem right here, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing Mikie Rowe, a professional soccer player at Cobh Ramblers on loan from Galway United in the League of Ireland's First Division. Mikey, thank you for taking the time for joining us today. How's it going?
All good, Kareem. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, could you just take us back in time and share how you got involved in the beautiful game?
Yeah. So, look, I grew up in Ireland. I've been playing since I was 5 or 6 years old, and I suppose it was always my dream to play professionally and play full time. So, I probably didn't take the conventional route. Most kids growing up in Ireland wanna go to England when they're 15 or 16 and play over there, and those opportunities, I suppose, they weren't coming for me. So I ended up going to the States to college, which was the best thing I ever done, and went into the USL that way, and that's how I've ended up in the League of Ireland. So, as I said, a little unconventional for Irish players, but a path that I'm massively, massively in favour of now, having gone down that route.
Absolutely. Usually, players in Europe want to stay in Europe and play in those big leagues. And a lot of players that I've had on the podcast have come from places like Ireland, France, England to the U.S. to get their education, and then also get the opportunity to pursue a professional career. As you mentioned, USL One, Toronto FC that you played for as well. You played for that club as well. So, could you just share a little bit about um, growing up and coming up in Ireland, how the lifestyle was, especially football? Is it similar to England? Because I've never been to Ireland and don't know much of. Could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think it is. It is similar to Ireland in how competitive the games are and how the games are played, but also there's a it's a similar to America in the fact that there's different sports. We've got Gaelic football and hurling and rugby here. So um, soccer is maybe not everyone's number one sport growing up. So you could be playing with guys that can't even come, soccer training twice or three times a week. So everyone's kind of on different wavelengths. Where in England it's very much, everyone wants to be a footballer. So I suppose I navigated that side of it as well, and then the academy structure wasn't great in Ireland when I was growing up. Like, there was only an under 19s league just before you jump into the pros. Like, so now you've got under 19s, under 17s, under 15s, under 14s even. So it's it really is going in the right direction. And I actually compare Ireland to America in how the game is growing. Like, it's because it's in Europe and it's so close to England. You think everything is rosy and very good over here, but the structures haven't really been in place as they should over the last number of years. So I compare Ireland and America in terms of how much in the last 10 years the academies have grown. And kids these days have such good opportunities in both countries. So I would say it's a growing, it's a football is more growing rather than being the finished article over here. But there's definitely lots of positives to growing up here as well.
Yeah. What about that's really good to hear. I feel like soccer in all countries are growing bit by bit. Um, in regards to the system-wise structure, did you start from grassroots to academy, and then did you were you playing in school? Could you just share a little bit about the steps that you took in order to get where you went? So, from grassroots to academy, like just share a little bit about the structure in regards to the steps that you took before you made the decision to go down to America.
Yeah, so I think everybody kind of starts playing locally when they're 6, 7, 8 years old, and you play at your local club, and some kids are luckier to get picked up in certain academies at a younger age, or um, before Brexit came in, kids in Ireland were actually able to go over to England once they turned 16. Now that's been pushed back to 18. So it's after changing the landscape here in the last couple of years, in terms of players staying in Ireland for that little bit longer. So I didn't have those opportunities when I was, 15, 16 to go to England. So you kind of think at that stage, look, is the dream over when you see, guys you've played with or against going over to Man United or going over to clubs in England. And so I suppose I stayed with my local club until I was 18. Then I went into the under 19 academy team, and shortly after that, I was playing first team at the age of 17, 18, which was great for me. But I didn't really break in as a first team regular at that time. And in this country as well, there's no under 21s, no under 23s league. So yeah, that's when I made the decision to go to college. So I think there's a good lesson to be learned in that, in terms of everyone's path is different. And just if there's players you're playing against or playing with that are getting opportunities that obviously you're kind of dreaming of, it doesn't mean they're completely gone. And I think there's a back route into everything.
What about the level? Is Ireland's level of play higher than the US? And when you were coming from Ireland to the US, was it a big playing transition, or are you like killing it in the US?
To be honest, I think having made maybe 20 professional appearances before I went to the college game in America, I assumed just by the titles that college was going to be a step down. And it was the complete opposite. I genuinely couldn't believe the standard, the level. I went to a really good Division Two school, and the players that were there and the players that we played against, I was blown away by, to be honest. So I think um, it's an unbelievable learning curve for these guys, 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, to play in college in a competitive environment, get your degree, and then look to go pro at 22. Obviously, if you're in a situation where coaches want to give you professional contracts when you're 17, that's the minority. You know what I mean? That's a 0.1%. But no, 100%. I definitely thought the level was so much higher than I anticipated it to be. And I always, when I get asked this question, it's so hard to compare the two countries in terms of the level, because they're so different. In Ireland, a lot of it is, long ball, direct, competing for headers. The game is really tough. Where in America, and I found, because of the heat of the country, the temperature, the game is so much slower because you can't press for 90 minutes. So they're almost like different sports, I would almost say. And they're so different. It's so hard to compare the level, but there's lots of really, really good players at all levels in both countries.
Nice. How did the opportunity for you come about, come to life in regards to the opportunity to go to the US? Did someone approach you and say, "Hey, you should look at this opportunity," or were you aware of this opportunity?
No, I wasn't. So I was playing at a club. Waterford was the name of it, and two of my teammates were going to Midwestern State in Texas. So they had like a scholarship consultant or whatever it may be come to watch them play. Um, and he seen me play and he got in touch with me, and I didn't really have any interest, to be honest. I kind of shrugged it off. And then as time went on, I kind of said, right, is this, because there wasn't, social media wasn't massive in 2015, and there wasn't like day in the lives and vlogs on YouTube of college athletes now. So I was kind of unsure what I was getting myself into, but I said, look, I'll step outside my comfort zone. And that's really how it came about. I was approached by a scholarship consultant, and believe it or not, that's actually, I do that on the side now as well as playing football. I get kind of guys over to the States, and it's such a fulfilling job, because you're sending them somewhere where it's really going to benefit them.
Absolutely. And you mentioned it was hot in the US, so I'm interested to know what part of the states you went to.
Yeah, so I was in Georgia. Um, yeah, my hair, my skin, it doesn't suit me, or people like me to be playing in the heat. But I really enjoyed it. The first season was tough because, coming from Ireland, where it's never really too hot, to going over there, and the heat was incredible. But yeah, the style of play is different because of that, and it's those players that adapt to it quickly and are the ones that do really well in the short college seasons.
You mentioned a great point in regards to social media wasn't that big back in 2015, 2016, a day in the lives that we have now in 2023. We have that content to see without physically being there, what we're getting ourselves into. So, what were the steps involved the process that you have to take in order to get over to the US, because it's not a simple process. It does cost a little bit of money. I'm not too sure if you were charged. It does take a little bit of time, and there are certain things that you have to get done before entering the US. So, can you just share exactly the steps that you had to take back in that time in order to get over to the US?
Yeah, so essentially you join, like you said, you join a scholarship agency, which there's a number of them around, and it's so important to do your research on them, and be with somebody you can trust. I would say more than anything. So that's step one, I suppose, and then step two is the different offers you get. It's important to look at the pros and cons of both, or however many there are. It's important to look at, location. Do you like the coach, the style of play? It's important not to rush a decision there either. And then obviously for Irish players coming in, there's the visa process and eligibility, because if you've played professional games over here or played games in the professional league, you've got to see, are you eligible for D1, are you eligible for D2? So it's essentially there's joining the agency, then offers and options come in, and then there's your visa and eligibility as well. So there is a process, and it's definitely becoming more popular. Um, and as I said, or as you said, even there's so much more out there now on YouTube and Google in terms of showing players exactly kind of what they're getting themselves in for.
What did you study?
So I done business management. I actually done a year of college in Ireland. So I started when I finished my leaving cert, which is the equivalent of high school. I started college in Ireland, um, and then transferred over to the States. So it made my degree a little bit easier, because I started with a number of credits. Um, but but yeah, it was interesting to see the difference in colleges in Ireland in terms of the education as well. And I no, I really like the education system in America. I definitely thought it was student friendly, which was something I needed as someone that definitely prioritized soccer more than my studies. So it was great to be able to balance both.
Yeah, for sure. I was definitely the same way too, and I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure there's lots of us out there. Um, you know, in that time, you're talking about not knowing what you're getting yourself into to a certain extent, leaving home, family, friends, a place that you know very well, and coming to America, to Georgia. Am I saying that correct? Georgia.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And um, what advice would you give to players out there that are not from the U.S., that are overseas, that want to come to the U.S.? What advice would you give to those players that want to take that jump and come to the U.S.?
I think from both a football point of view and a life point of view, I think it's just leave your comfort zone. I see players are comfortable in at one club or in one country, and they kind of get stuck there. And if you kind of move destinations and move around the world, you're out of your comfort zone. You improve so much. You come on as a person. You learn different styles of play, how other countries, the game is different in each country. So that for me is the biggest part, is just become uncomfortable, and you'll grow more than anything, is my advice on that one.
For sure. That's great advice. Um, what does your day to day look like for the club that you play for currently?
So yeah, that's an interesting one, because I started the season at Galway United. So we were training every morning, and now I'm on loan at Cobh, and we train in the evening. So that was like a sudden shift in the transfer window, where you go from having a routine of training every morning. Now I'm training in the evening. So it's a little different. I do a lot of my own gym work now during the days, with trainings in the evening. It's a little different, because even you're so used to training in the morning and gym in the afternoon, even just how your body feels going into training after doing the gym, rather than having it the other way around. So look, I'll generally try to get up at the same time every morning, go to the gym, and depending on if I have training that evening or how far out from a game day we are, I'll tailor the gym session. So it's yeah, look, right now it's generally get up in the morning, go to the gym, do some scholarship work for the SMUSA scholarships is the company I work for. So I do a little bit of that, and then I'll head off to training in the evenings, and then we play every Friday evening. So it's nice now to have my Saturdays and Sundays off to kind of recover and get ready for the next week.
Nice. A little bit of reversal in the schedule. So you have a lot of free time during the day, and then the evening you got to go train.
Yeah, it's different. I So for the last 5 years, I've been training in the mornings, and it's been flipped around. So it's managing that time during the day. Like it's being as productive as I can, and not skipping, the stretching sessions or the mobility sessions when, because I have more than enough time to do all that now as well. So it's just being disciplined in every aspect, and holding yourself accountable on that.
Absolutely. In regards to free time, what do you do in your free time after the stretches, after the training? What do you usually do in your free time?
I watch a lot of soccer, man. To be honest, I look. It's when I was in the States and the Premier League games and stuff were on really early in the morning. I'm back home now, and obviously you've got the Champions League most Tuesdays and Wednesday evenings. So look, I like to watch soccer. I like to play golf. Um, I'm trying to, find something else since I've got a lot of free time, maybe tennis or something like that. But I do like dabbling into other sports when I get a chance, and just spending time with family. Really, that's it's pretty quiet, to be honest. Boring, some might say, but yeah, I don't like to do too much either with what free time I have.
For sure. I want to take a step back here, going back to university or college or university.
Yeah, no, it was college, so it was Young Harris College was the name, but yeah.
Got it. I want to take a step back there. Um, how many years were you there? And then what was the process or transition to becoming a professional soccer player? What are the steps there?
So I done 3.5 years in college, so I was able to graduate in the December, which is a massive plus for anybody that wants to go into the pros. So because I had those credits from Ireland, I was able to graduate in the December, which was great. I played in USL 2 with Tormenta 2, and was lucky enough to do well there, and be offered a pro deal to go straight into that January. So it was the first year of USL 1 that Tormenta joined, and I joined them for their first season. So it was yeah, I was lucky, because it can be an absolute nightmare for lads coming out of college, and going on trials and trying to get their foot in the door, because that is the hardest part. Once you get your first deal, it becomes easier from there. But I was really lucky to play for coaches and an ownership group at Tormenta that trusted me and gave me that first pro contract. So yeah, it all really came from my college career, and from taking the summers to play USL 2, which was huge, and something I highly recommend to every young player.
For sure. That sounded like all the stars aligned. You went straight from college, graduated. You were playing for the USL 2 Trementa FC team, and they just launched the league. Launched, you mentioned, right? The league.
Yeah, that
So
year, yeah,
that year, and it's not like every club has to join, but the club that you played for joined for
yeah.
USL 1, and you're performing well enough to earn a contract there. So that's all stars aligned, perfect timing, and you just wrapped up school. So man, that's amazing to hear. Um, and then in regards to, wow, I'm just shocked by that. That's crazy.
Yeah,
So,
no, yeah, it's like you say, like it takes so much luck to get anywhere in soccer, no matter what level. And I suppose there's been situations in previous years where I've nearly got somewhere and nearly made some team and been unlucky, but that was definitely a case where I was incredibly lucky, as you say, and that you do need that bit of luck.
yeah, for sure. But you did put in the work, right? You perform,
Hmm.
and just a little sparkle of salt or
Yeah.
sugar on it for luck, and bam, it happened. So with saying that, it sounded like a pretty smooth transition to pro. Um, how did it feel to get your first professional, well, not first professional contract, but your first professional contract in the US?
Yeah, no, it would that was the dream come true, because when I played in the pro league when I was, back here when I was 17 or 18, I was still in college and I was still in school, so I wasn't really in full time. So to go from college in the States to a full time environment, and it was a club I love being at. It was so good to wake up every day and you were actually getting paid to go training, which was it's unbelievable, to be honest. And you kind of have to pinch yourself sometimes, and there is tough days and tough periods throughout the season as well. But you're actually getting paid to do something you love at the end of the day. So that was, for me, was just, I genuinely couldn't believe it when I would get a paycheck for doing something I actually, wanted to do every day, and something I would have been doing anyway, whether I was getting paid or not. So that was, yeah, that was the unbelievable part of it, really.
Yeah, that's the thing that a lot of players that play serious, that want to take it to the next level, that want to go pro. That's the dream right there. Getting paid for what you love to do, which you mentioned, and you mentioned that you have to pinch yourself a few times to say, "Is this real?" And at what point did you really take it in? Like, I am a professional footballer, and I'm getting paid for what I love to do. And what things came with that? What changed for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, I'm not sure if there has been a moment. I don't know if there has been a moment yet. I think it might even be, when it's all said and done, that I look back on it and say, look, that was such an unbelievable time in my life. But that's why I really do try to stay present, and because there's a lot of down days in football with bad training sessions and bad results on the weekend. But when you look at, you're doing what so many people want to do, and that's kind of what I try to tell myself. But I actually don't think there has been that moment yet, whether it's going to come in the next couple of months or years, or whether it's going to be something I look back on. That's probably what I think it will be, to be honest.
For sure. Some of the players that I've spoke to, in either level, whether it's MLS, USL Championship, USL One, NISA, um, MLS Next Pro, um, I always tell these guys, I say, look, you're a part of the 1%, man. Right. So, you're a part of that 1%, which I feel like players sometimes don't even realize,
Yeah.
because, you guys are always looking at reaching that next level. But it's true. I mean, out of, the last stats that I'm aware of from 2019, there's 250 million players that play at different levels, but there's only like, I don't remember the exact number now, but I think it's like around 200,000 players that are actually pro players. So that's a huge number. That's like 0.001%. It's not even one. So
Yeah.
shout out to you. Um, with saying that, you said there comes challenges. But before we go to challenges, I want to know, what advice would you give to the next generation that want to go pro, that are coming up?
Yeah, I think my key advice would be this: you need to stay level headed at all times. There's going to be times during your career where you're up here and you're doing really well, and it's important to continue to do the things that have gotten you there. And there's going to be points in your career where you're really low and things aren't going well. But if you can keep that consistency, no matter how things are going, or how the outside factors are going, then I think eventually you will reach your potential. That's, I think, staying level headed. And it's so difficult because if things are going really, really badly, you mightn't do, you mightn't be doing the extra work you need to do because, you're low in confidence or you're frustrated, or even at the opposite end of the scale, you're scoring goals every week, or you're doing really well. You think, okay, I don't need to keep doing the things I've done to got me here, or to get me here. So I would say stay level headed no matter what happens. Don't get too high with the highs and too low with the lows, and just stay consistent. And that's the advice I'd give.
Some really good advice. What position do you play, and what specific skills and attributes do you believe are essential for success in that role?
Yeah, so I'm an attacking midfielder. I'm more the attacking midfielder that tries to get in the box rather than, the one that drops into midfield and tries to dictate the game. I suppose it comes with playing in Ireland as well, where it is that little bit more direct. You're trying to get in the box a lot. So look, I think having an eye for goal, um, having really good fitness levels to cover ground, is important as well. Um, and just technically being proficient in terms of receiving the ball, passing the ball, dribbling, crossing, shooting, because they're all aspects of the game that you do every single week. So those are the key skills for me in that role.
Got it. How important is teamwork in soccer, and what do you believe are the key elements of effective team chemistry and collaboration on the field?
Yeah, it's incredibly important because my college coach Mark McKeever at Young Harris, he used to always say the most important thing is to put the team before yourself, and those players that done that generally went on to be the most successful. So if you're in a team and you're doing well but the team is not doing well, you're going to get less looks by college coaches, by professional coaches, whatever it may be. It's always those teams that do really well that coaches have an interest in. So that, even just from an individual aspect, that's how important teamwork is. And on the field, I think the most important thing is having respect for all of those involved. Your teammates, your coaches. If you don't respect those, um, then the team is never going to be successful. So I'll just go with a basic one there, and that's just having respect for all those, your teammates and your coaches and everybody involved. Really, that's most important for me.
Absolutely. Um, Teamwork is so important. Soccer is a team sport. It's not a one man show. So what you shared was really great. Um, with saying that, we're coming towards the end here. Is there anything that I missed or that you would like to share?
No, Kareem, I think you covered everything there. It was no, that was it was really enjoyable, and I think we covered quite a bit.
For sure. I think I'll have two more questions. The second last thing I'll ask is you mentioned challenges,
Hmm.
or besides challenges, like how do you stay motivated?
I think this actually goes back to the question where you asked me kind of when did you realize you were a pro and you kind of made it. Um, when you're playing in League One or even Championship or NISA or any of these leagues, you're always fighting for that next contract. We're not really getting 4 and 5 year contracts like they're getting in England and the top leagues in Europe or even the MLS. So um, if you take your foot off the pedal at all, and you're not performing, the next season you're not going to have a contract. It's simple as that. So I suppose the motivation is if this is something you want to sustain and this is something you're serious about, you have to first of all you have to be performing in training to get in the team, because if you're not in the team, you're not going to get signed back there or get looks from elsewhere. So that's what keeps you going every week, and just knowing that if this is something you want to continue to do, you've really got to perform and keep going to the next level. So that's definitely part of my motivation. And then just internally, I'm lucky to still have fire in the belly and want to really really keep going with this. So there's that intrinsic motivation as well. That I think once I lose that and start doing it for something else, that's probably time to pack it in, to be honest. So yeah, it's just the fact that I'm really enjoying it and want to continue to do this for as long as I can. So that's what keeps me motivated.
Absolutely. Last question before we dive into the fun five questions, which is really short. Um, you know, when we were playing back in the days as kids, we're just having fun. We don't have any responsibilities, any bills. Um, so the focus was a bit different on the field from, let's just say age 5 to 16, for example. Um, and then it gets a bit more serious, and we have to have responsibilities and bills as we get older. Um, with saying that, how does that affect you on the field, or are you able to opt it out of your mind and really tune in and focus on the job at hand that you have to take care of on the pitch and win that game?
Yeah, I think I think growing up and you see games with, with large crowds, and you wonder how it would affect you. And I can genuinely say, or over the last few years, whether there's been 500 at the game or 5,000, once you get on the pitch, it really doesn't matter. It's you're completely focused on your job, and it's incredible, because then you go look at a game with, let's say, 4 or 5 thousand people, and you're looking at the atmosphere and you're thinking, would I get lost in that? But once you're on the field, you kind of do revert back to being that kid in the playground and just go and play the game. And obviously you do have a lot more pressure in terms of your, there's so much stuff going on in your head, of your roles at set pieces, your role out of possession, in possession. So you are thinking a lot more about that. And there's certain games you express yourself in. There's certain games you're kind of holding back a little bit, because you're on the fringes of the team, or you haven't been in the team, or you haven't been playing well. So I'd say there's aspects of that kid in the playground in terms of focusing in on the game, but there also is that extra bit of pressure and responsibility. And I think it's those players that can forget about that responsibility and just go out and play like it doesn't really matter, are always the most entertaining, and often the best players as well. So the mental side of the game is huge, and you can see it with psychologists coming in and sports psychologists. That side of the game is important as well, and it was probably neglected up to a couple of years ago, but coaches and sports psychologists, etc., are starting to see the value in that, and they are becoming much more important as well.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a very important piece right there, and it's helped a lot of players improve the game. So the game's only going to continue to improve. With psychologists, technology has enhanced so many different things. Um, Leading towards the end here, I have 5 fun questions. They're pretty short, so we'll get into it. What's your favorite food?
I would have to say my mom's chicken curry. She makes a great curry. So I lived away from home for so long. I'm back living at home now, and I think that'll always be my favorite.
What's your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? I'll have to go with The Inbetweeners. It's I'm not sure if you've seen it. It's four English lads. They're students. It's a comedy, and it's very much um it's a bit silly, I suppose, but it is hilarious. It's definitely The Inbetweeners.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out after.
Yeah, I do.
What's your favorite activity outside of soccer?
I would say golf. I'm not very good at it, and the weather is too cold here right now. But yeah, definitely golf.
Who is your favorite music artist?
James Blunt.
I
James
love-
Blunt. Yeah, he's. I'm not sure how familiar you are with him, but he's really good.
Wait, did you say James Bond?
James Blunt.
Oh, James Blunt. Okay,
Yeah,
I'll have to check him out too. I
check
thought
him out, dude.
I thought you said James Bond for some reason. Yeah.
You were thinking I got the question wrong.
The last one, Messi or Ronaldo?
Uh, See, I'm a Man United fan, so I always would have said Ronaldo, but I don't know. Just last year with Ronaldo leaving Man United again and Messi winning the World Cup, probably swayed it a little bit. So I'll go with Messi.
Got it. Well, Mikey, before we go, I'd like to thank you for taking the time for joining me on the One Soccer Nation podcast today.
Thanks, Kareem. No, I really enjoyed that. Thanks for having me on.